Do you listen to learn or to give your opinion?
Well, I was listening to give my opinion right now. My mouth, if you were watching this rather than listening or only listening, I had my mouth poised and ready to say something before it was my turn, which kind of gives evidence to that even though I think I've gotten much, much better at listening to learn and listening to hear, because that's how I learn, is to hear and then learn from what I've heard, versus thinking about what I'm going to say. And so I'm still not so great at it, I guess. Ouch.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
All right. So in this episode, we are excited that we're welcoming you to another episode of Life's Inside Track with Yetta Decker.
And Ken Decker.
And we're excited to welcome you because this is an opportunity for all of us to tap into tips and tools and techniques and thoughts around real estate and life that we all need, we all deserve, you, I, and everyone, so we can turn our house into home where our families thrive and we live the best life possible. What we're going to learn in this segment is that our preconceived ideas, our preconceived thoughts affects our ability to listen. And how can we navigate that?
Absolutely. And I think that's probably why sometimes I interrupt you, Yetta.
Or I interrupt you?
It's because I'm already formulating my opinion, my judgment, my thought, my next sentence before I've even finished listening to you sometimes. And so being aware of that is life-changing. Because I can hear my story in my head through my multiple perspective advantage, right? Which
we talked about in other episodes. If you're thinking, you can unpack that right now? No, we're not going to unpack that right now. Just recognize that there's over 503 episodes of Life's Inside Track, and you can find lots of them where we talk about the multiple perspective advantage. And so you're using it for good, because what you're saying is you're aware.
I'm aware of the conversation and my opinion bubbling up, which is based on my history, my perspective, my culture, all kinds of things, my upbringing, my family, my schooling. And I get to stay in curiosity to listen to hear as opposed to listen to judge or listen to give my opinion. Now, as a realtor, there is a time for giving advice, opinion, options, that kind of thing. And that time is not right away.
And that's a struggle for, well, in the past, I'm going to say in the past, but know that it still happens once in a while. But I just did it right the other day. So I'm pretty excited about myself right now. So in the past, what I would do is you would ask me a question. So as an example, a gentleman at a hotel the other day knew I was there for real estate. I hadn't told him, I hadn't disclosed it, but he knew I was connected to real estate. And he said, "You seem really friendly and chatty, so I have a question for you."
Well, you got that part right.
I know, right? And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "How do I buy my first house in this market where the prices are escalating and the interest rates are high? How do I buy my first house?"
Hold on a second. They're not high. The interest rates are going up slightly, but they're not high. They're nowhere near high.
They're not, but okay. So how do I buy in this house, in this market, when my affordability is moving away from me, is really what he was saying, right? He didn't say it in all those words, but he said, how do I buy a house in this market? And in the past, what I would have done was jumped in with both feet and started telling him.
Probably making an assumption. What would have been your assumption?
My assumption, 100%, hook, line, and sinker, would have been that he really didn't know anything about real estate at all, that he had never lived in a home that he had owned or that his partner had owned, and that he wanted to move into the house that he was wanting to buy.
So a typical first-time home buyer.
Right. I would have, because that's what he said. How do I buy my first house? So that's what I would have done. And don't we so often, based on a question sounding like another question, determine we already have all the answers? And so what if you just slowed down and went, oh, maybe I don't know the whole story. Maybe there's more here. And that's just his way of asking the question, which this time I'm excited to tell you I did. And I
slowed down.
I slowed down to listen, because you have to slow down to be able to hear what they're actually saying, even if they're not using their words to say it. And so I said, may I ask you a couple of questions to understand? Because if I don't, it's going to be like when I took my daughter to the dentist, or to the doctor, actually, when she was 14, I guess. And we took her to the doctor's, and she had a terrible jaw problem. And
clicking and
sore, and she was in pain and agony. And very quickly, the doctor said, I know what it is, and said, it's really kind of strange, because children that are 14 don't typically have to go on lifelong medication for this illness, but that's what she's got. And I went, okay. But something didn't feel right to me. So I listened to my inner voice, decided that instead of putting her on those drugs just yet, I took the prescription. I was polite. I was kind. And then I went and prayed through it and realized that it may or may not be that. So I took her to the dentist just in case. Guess what the dentist figured? He started asking her questions, and he said, well, do you ever chew gum? She goes, oh yeah, every day. Like, it matches my outfit. The gum I chew matches my gum. And
your outfit
matches the gum. Yeah,
yes,
that's the way
multiple
it goes.
Colors of gum to get the one that matches.
Match the outfit. And then he said, okay. And then he said, do you talk on the phone much? And those were the days, the 25-foot cord. And it's like, oh yeah, she does, around the corner, around, so we can't hear. She on the phone a lot of times. And he just said, oh, it's just from overuse. And so that's all she had to do was slow down. Stop chewing gum and stop talking on the phone so much. And then the problem went away. So anyway, I asked him a few defining questions. Turns out he's ready for his first investment property, that he already lives in a home that his partner owns.
Not the dentist. You switched topics very quick there.
I know, because I realized how quickly a little segment goes, and we're almost up in this little chunk. And so the point is, I had to slow down to listen and ask questions, and then listen to be able to actually answer an appropriate question. I would have helped him not at all and just left him in chaos and confusion.
And so really, what did he want? He didn't want to buy his first house.
No. Well, kind of, because his partner owned a home. So he wanted to buy his first investment property. And he needed to know, how could he navigate that financially? Well, that's a totally different answer than your first house that you're going to go live in.
It's a very important piece of information that you would have left out.
It is. And so sometimes we get all excited without actually doing our due diligence to listen to the person we're talking to.
And that's one of the things we do when we do a consultation, because many times people will call us and say, hey, I'd like to see this property. And okay, we can show you that property. The difficulty is it might not be the right property because we haven't had our consultation.
So it always starts with a consultation. So what we're going to always ask you to do and ask ourselves to do is slow down so that we can speed up. Because once we slow down and do the consultation, we can speed up to get the best result that actually is what you're after.
And we're grateful to be your partners in moving forward together in both wisdom, worth, and life.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.